Lines form on my face and hand. Lines form from the ups and downs. I'm the middle without any plans. I'm a boy and I'm a man. 'Cause I'm 18, I just don't know what I want. 18, I know what I want. 18, I gotta get away. I gotta get out of this place. I go running in outer space again. I got a baby's brain and a young man's heart. Took 18 years to get this far. Don't always know what I'm talking about. Seems like I'm living down. 'Cause I'm 18, I get confused every day. 18, I just don't know what to say. 18, I gotta get away. I gotta get out of this place. I go running out of space again. 18. 18 years of silence. 18 years of pain. 18 years that are gone forever and we'll never have again. So anyways. Oh yeah. Broadcasting. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever the hell you are. Welcome back to the Easy Reefers Fish Room. I am your host, YouTube's fake TV star. Here on fake TV, it's where I'm the star. Well, Jacob and the Scepter of Israel. And here we are with Joey of Arimathea. Say hello, Joey. There he is. Somehow I knew it was you, Joey. Probably because you just text messaged me. So anyways, before I get into the memories that only I could possibly have, or maybe some of the recent tellings that really it's just like, how many things do you need before you admit that I probably actually am the closest thing you'll ever get to Jesus. I just want to say, first of all, I take exception to everything that you've been taught about what Jesus, the word, means. So take that into consideration when your brainwashing causes you to shun me for my very well-informed beliefs. However, I'm an extremely skeptical person. And there came a point in my life where it was simply the universe wanted me to do something. And no matter how much I did not want to do it, I had to accept my role. And this is what the universe wanted from me, so this is what I'm doing. And one of the ways I tried to, back away slowly, as it were, was trying to debunk my memories as being implausible or unreferenceable, or in some way just plain not helpful, when in fact all of these memories that I've managed to rekindle are not just referenceable and very plausible, but they explain things in the one way that leads all of humanity back to being able to heal itself and remember that we're all a family again. And, when it comes to a choice of a knowledge burden, what the fuck would you do? Okay? I have hallucinations. I mean, one might have to say that I was hallucinating in order to believe that this shit all just happened on its own, that it wasn't in fact the universe, at the very least, speaking to me. But I have these hallucinations on video. Dozens and dozens of them, okay? But suffice to say, this period where reality seemed to have fallen apart in order to get me to consider certain things was marked by considerable global change, and has been sort of a global narrative of politics and drama playing out along the exact same lines of this revelation as it has been experienced by me. Even still, at the same time, I remain skeptical and only commit to this course of action because, again, what the fuck would you do? The entire universe seems to want you to know something. And this knowledge is the one thing that can help heal the world. Am I supposed to just say, I'd rather not be embarrassed and called crazy? I mean, obviously, I'd rather not be embarrassed and called crazy. But there's a bigger thing at stake here than me, in any fucking way. So I have to see where this goes. I have to indulge this. I have to be myself. You've seen the universe speak to me. You've seen the universe speak to you just because you were brought to this channel somehow. Joey, the son of John and Mary, the repayment of Cain's existence on the ark. You could not exterminate me because I could not exterminate you. How you like them apples? let me just put it this way. Nobody ends up in my house without being an extremely enlightened person already, for no apparent reason. But anyways, Joey, my son, it'd be marvelous if people actually could get some of my videos. I think there are some of my videos that will still show up on fish streams, because, you know, it's all by the numbers when it comes to suppression. But thank you and welcome to some really crazy shit for just your average fish tank viewer. I am basically the husband of the goddess, and I've been in charge of fishy type things for quite some time. But speaking of fishy things, what I always found fishy was the missing 18 years of Christ. And I remember this little time period that seems like something that people wouldn't want to talk about. Yeah, welcome to the Universe Bending channel, where if you don't believe me, good luck. It's like that scene with the Matrix from the spoon. Yeah, one does not merely watch The Lost Begotten. Well, anyways. But suffice to say, I've proven that I'm something kind of bizarrely supernatural at the very least. And the universe has sort of just kept doing what I was trying to warn people against, and otherwise doing so in a way that teaches the exact lessons I was trying to teach. And all of this is based upon me regaining my personality from my memories. And, well, frankly, the personality that I had developed during this life wasn't that different. I'm always just kind of the same person. Anyways, thank you to the new person for joining. It looks like they've already left. Because you know how people who keep saltwater fish tanks are closed-minded. Wait a minute. No, that's usually not the case. And thanks to Joey and Mr. Conway and, of course, Lacey for joining us on this broadcast, y'all. Well, the missing 18 years. Or at least the memories that I have that, well, might be them. And, you know, like everything having to be tactically correct for me to be able to consider it, this is a tactically correct scenario in that I could see why the Catholics and people like that wouldn't want to admit that this time ever took place. Not only does it just kind of make it look bad, but also the actual logistical history of it debunks their false narrative of all subsequent events and enhances the current grip of the Horde to this day. Those are the memories that I have. I don't know if some fucking alien spaceship came and planted them in my brain, but all this crap happened to me at once in 2011. It's been slowly unpacking since then. Bits and details here and there every time I try to tell the story. Every time I try to tell the story, I'm just trying to go through stuff that we've already told before. And then I wound up, oh, but wait, I remember now. And I had a, but wait, I remember now about the biggest fucking thing that we've been wondering. What the hell was my connection to the Horde? Now, I don't know about during the time of Jacques de Molay, but I remembered something from 2,000 years ago that fucking blowing my mind. Okay. So I was, well, according to this, whatever it is, it seems really like memory to me. Like I, as an exorcist, as a very well-trained psychic warrior, am used to distinguishing memories from false memories, from magic impersonations of memories, from brainwashing, from amalgamizations of other experiences, from amalgamizations of movies and shit like that. Okay. I've got my brain pretty much formatted like a computer system, okay? And I know how to analyze any sort of thought pattern that comes through my consciousness, all right? I've refined this to a level well beyond what most people would ever bother doing. Because, again, I was a teenage exorcist who was also a computer programmer ish type thing. I'm not going to fucking give details on that. But let's just say the whole black trench coat martial artist thing wasn't an invention. It was just kind of my style since the age of 10. Although, I wore black leather pants, like, as a preference. Because, you know, barbed wire. Anyways. Behold, I come as a thief. Or a smartass, one of the two. Maybe a smartass thief. Whoever it is, they must be responsible for the platypus. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, clearly, it'd be somebody like me, if not me. But back in 2011, right around the time that UFOs stopped appearing, it seemed like they were all showing up at my house. And this is when I met the woman from my childhood, what I thought were dreams. And I sort of, because of her, woke up to those dreams and remembered all of the memories within them. And this gave me a clear path to my identity, going from before my childhood through the underworld to an existence in basically a cursed prison for about 400 something years. I was sealed in a tree, as Merlinite myth would probably verify. They say that I was sealed in a piece of wood, but they don't know what type of piece of wood because they don't know the meaning of the word. They just think that the word means some sort of wood. It was a tree. Sealed in a tree. If you knew anything about druidic magic, you would have figured that out. Because it's the only way to kill someone from being reborn. Do you not know this? Like, am I speaking fucking gibberish here? Is this just not something that would occur to people these days? To keep a soul from being immediately reborn, you bury them underneath a sapling. And you bind their spirit into the sapling. Then when the sapling grows, they're contained within the tree. Okay. So this is just any Wicca, any Druid, any person of ancient European type mysticism would probably be able to recount for you. But suffice to say, it should have been obvious to people. But, you know, there's so many things that aren't obvious to people. Like people who tell you that Anubis was a jackal. Or that Magdalenia was some whorehouse by Hazor in Palestine. Really? Well, Magdalenia is an imperial status very relevant to the existence of Rome, and it was the cause for which a Caesar was appointed. Okay? protector of Rome from the Horde. Now, Dingo, stop chewing. Okay. Let me just stop bouncing around and trying to skeptically disclaim myself here and just get right back into doing what I fucking do. And I guess I'll use this little fucking map that I was trying to sketch out to explain to my wife. Okay. So, here is England, Europe. Okay. Prussia. Bavaria. An ancient site that was being sort of instituted / resettled as like a traditionalist thing. It was like kings would pretend to agree upon something, but they were all kind of vying for power for what it would one day become, which was Berlin. Okay. But this is where it all fucking came clear to me. There's this period before this that wasn't so much clear. When I remembered that, this became even more clear because I had more context. And I was getting giddy just remembering this shit. And the detail that I can fucking remember now. And it makes sense with all the emotions. Okay, so what I was saying about brain formatting and trying to decipher whether or not you remember something, or whether your dog's just gonna sit there and fucking chew his front paw while you're trying to speak. No. Whether you remember something or whether it's, you know, an imagined thing, a deluded thing, a demon thing, amalgamization of experience or false experience, like TV, imagination, that kind of thing. Movies, CGI. Well, one of the keys to finding the real memory is being able to distinguish between demonically induced emotions and real experiential pure emotions. And if you can follow your real experiential pure emotions, you can kind of get an instinct about a situation. And then you might try to imagine solutions, but all of them are very easy to reject because none of them are going to make sense with this one pure memory of a feeling. And the story has to line up and bring you into that moment where, from your perspective, and not from like a storytelling third person type view, but you have that moment where you're there again, you know? You know, like when the same way when you're hearing a family member or somebody tell you about a moment from childhood, and then suddenly you just remember that feeling or something. What you got? Berlin is the easiest crossing point north of the Alps. Oh, then more of this story is gonna fucking make sense then. Oh, wow. Yeah, you're right, too. That's the way I'm picturing it in my fucking head on these old shitty drawn maps that, well, I drew them, so yeah, they were shitty. Obviously. I think I coined the term not stopping for directions, or I don't know. Maybe not. I'm kidding. So, all right, let's just fucking start from the beginning. I did fail to finish one thought about Joey for the two people who were absent for me trying to go into this. I wanted you to know this. Oh, and one of them just left. Joey, when my wife and I, a few months after creating this channel, we're watching, I think, Real Crusades history or something along those lines. Something about, like, the original histories of Joseph of Arimathea and Mary Magdalene and Sariah. Anyways, okay. Gonna try to not focus on the bad memories there. But anyways, so when my wife and I were remembering, we had a son, and this soul kept being born to us several times. It had been our son before, and this was like the son that was one of the founding fathers of Europe. Okay, and we held hands like this and closed our eyes, and I snapped my fingers to do sort of a bending of fate, in which I wanted my son to come back and fucking find us on the channel and just to see. And this is one of the many things that I've done that just to test who I am. Okay, if I can't do this, then I have no business continuing this delusion. You know, how do you say that? But it's one of the things like Nathan Cox. Like, there's a kid that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the day that I made my screen name. And when told by an impression of God that that was the secret name given to Christ, and I doubted this, and I said, no, I don't want to be Christ. You gotta be fucking kidding me. If you want to prove this kind of stupid shit to me, you're gonna have to do some stupid shit in return. And I said, I want a kid named by that name, only I want their last name to be Cox, because at that time, Courtney Cox was in the fucking Rolling Stone magazine cover, and everybody was talking about how fucking hot she was for a couple years. And it was like a teenage boy thing to just like Cox. So I just wanted to be obnoxious. I just wanted to be fucking stupid as fuck, just to test, just to make it so hard for God to make me Jesus, basically. Okay? And in 2011, when I met Kira and I fucking woke back up, I went and I just had her search for Nathan Cox. And we found the kid. He was the exact right age. Well, when it came to our son and figuring out what his name was, what's his name going to be when he comes and finds us, we both just kind of instantly knew the name of a baby kangaroo because of our thing with Australia. Australia is like Narnia, dude. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Australia is imaginary, but real at the same time. And, you know, platypus. Australia is beyond sacred. Okay? Beyond sacred. Anybody who fucks with Australia will find themselves cursed. That includes China as a whole. So if you want to continue to exist, don't fuck with Australia. Anyways. So this guy shows up in the comments and says, I've been hearing this ringing in my ears until I found the channel and then it stopped. What the fuck is going on here? And I saw the comment and I showed it to my wife. And I said, Joey's here. That's Joey. The Joey. That's how he came to the channel. He, like on a Christmas movie, he heard a fucking ringing in his ears until he found the channel. From the point that my wife and I basically summoned him. You know, kind of the way I summoned Russia for the final testing of mankind. Yes, it was in 2011 I got my bearings and saw them creeping and crawling about. But it wasn't until August 2013, was it? July? Somewhere around then? We had tracked it on Facebook. A Facebook post about the Night of the Laughing Dragon in which I called them to come forth and said, "Let's do this, baby!" Imagine that. What would you think if you were you? If you were me? If somebody was somebody? I don't fucking know. Okay, see this little bit of swords right here I have? Okay. I had these sitting here where I have the aquarium and the box fan. Alright. And I had a, I have my actual sword. These are just show swords. But I have a hand-hammered, fucking multi-folded, real fighting sword that could probably chop through those swords. It's chopped through other steel. So I really do struggle on remembering the sequence of events, but nonetheless, this is all worth being written in a leather-bound book. Okay? To give you an idea of why some shit might be ambiguous in there, is because things happen and then they're remembered, and that's not a perfect process. Okay? Now, this was a time in which I was growing frustrated with this pattern of anti-Americanism on the part of Republicans, and this seeming brainwashing of society that I had begun to track to the ancient horde, and had begun to track that now they were calling themselves Russia. And this is a lot to do with Magdalenia and trying to reveal the location of the ancient stronghold of the feminine, basically. And how it was overturned and destroyed. And before I get back into the story from 2,000 years ago, I'll go ahead and finish this one, because it's relevant. I was talking with this guy named Nick. Okay. Guy I went to high school with. I know his whole family. Okay. I went to middle school with him too, I think. Wrestling champion, preacher, doesn't even listen to like heavy metal music. Okay, like straight shooter as they come. But he could not accept that what the Bible said was true, basically. He could not accept that this was prophecy coming real and that the church itself was falling. And I felt like if I couldn't convince him about this wave of brainwashing that had come from the post-Cold War era. Okay? Yeah, wrestling priest. I know, that's funny. He was pure athletic, you know, just fucking just white bread American. Okay, just kind of look like Nathan Cox, actually. He had a brother that was also on the wrestling team, but wound up getting into drugs and shit. But this was like the straight shooter in the family, man. This guy was, you know, if I just wanted to try to see if somebody could be non-diluted on their otherwise happenstantial ability to resist demonic influence, this would be the guy, right? And he would also be the guy that if I was wrong, man, fucking tell me why I'm wrong. But no, as far as most Americans, every American, anybody, most people, in 2013, Russia was nothing. I knew, from my perspective, that this was the same empire that had been trying to destroy or enslave humanity for about 3,000 fucking years now. But I couldn't convince people that they were even so much as a threat. That they couldn't do so much as send internet trolls to influence our public opinion. I couldn't convince people of that. So as my wife and I set the wedding date, just over a year before we got married, on 12/13/14. Yeah, you know, easy so I can remember it. So I don't forget, because I'm a husband and we forget things. Set the wedding date for 12/13/14. Began to seriously plan everything out at the about a year mark before that. And it was when we got married that I put back on the news and saw what was happening. In Ukraine. The Maidan. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, I called them forth, didn't I? This is going to be it. This is what's going to lead to Russia starting their advance. I knew that the very moment I saw those protests in Kiev. Because, like I said, what the fuck would you think if you had just summoned Russia forth after 20 years of the Cold War being over? And then, come forth they did, precious. Come forth they fucking did. And I put on that sword rack the wedding robe that my wife spent the night before the wedding in prayer in. It was a white robe. I draped it over there. And I called it the War Shrine. And I bent fate and said, as long as this stays covered, the invasion will be postponed. And then about 3 months later, when the cats finally knocked that fucking thing off of there, little green men showed up in Crimea. In fact, it wasn't until I noticed that came down that I put on the news looking for what would be the first episode of Vice News' Russian Roulette, the invasion of Ukraine. right after I said, come forth, the wedding, as in the bride and the bridegroom, finally happened. You know, nobody was murdered this time. Nobody was taken as a slave wife this time. Come forth. And the wedding that was 30 years in the making, or 3,000 years, depending on how you count. Since the fall of Magdalenia during the time of Alexander. You see, the whole reason why the Scythians, had backed Alexander was so that they could go to war with the Celts while the world was otherwise occupied. Because what you don't know about the Celts is that they were connected via sort of a trade alliance with nations all over the world. And the old Silk Road, the reason why you find red-headed people and myths and ancient tales of red-headed people all along the whole fucking Silk Road throughout Asia, is because of this hidden fucking part of history. That, by the way, is hidden to destroy women. History is all about men, isn't it? And women would be foolish to ever think that they had any real power. Not true, actually. Not true at all. No matter where you go, you meet the other Gales, huh? There you go. Including in Galilee, which this story is supposed to be about. About the moments leading up to that view, that horrifying view from the mountaintop of Bethel El. Just east of Beersheba, the cliff there. So, back from the beginning, is it? Let's not skip right to the depressing part. Let's get back to the fun shit. The fun shit. There was some fun shit there. You know, rather chaotic murdering shit, but there was some fun shit afterwards. So Caiaphas basically had an arrangement with Herod, and he helped him become king, and Herod helped consolidate the Jews as the Jews. Basically, the house of Judah consolidating the other houses under their rule. Now, I don't know more than the region of where I was from, where my parents lived. But I was told for most of my life that they were both dead. Okay? My mother, I knew, had died at childbirth. And my father was supposed to have been killed when our village was raided, basically. And my wife's sister, who was raising me, died. Um, I didn't see my father die. Yom Shabbat. I guess that roughly translates to Joseph. I don't know. And I don't know for sure that Caiaphas was there. But I saw somebody that I always thought was him. And I don't know whether or not I embellished that as an imaginatory memory at that time, okay? So imagine that I'm sitting here trying to remember something from 2,000 years ago and debunking whether or not I had bullshitted myself into believing something that I didn't necessarily have the evidence to believe. But basically I had concluded that this guy, because of the way he was using scripture to consolidate power, he was kind of like a priest mobster, all right? I thought he was the one. And I just remember this fucking like Vulcan blood burning rage, okay? And how I would just look down forward every time he ever fucking spoke. And now, when you were younger and you were the slave of a priest, you were what's called a black brush scribe. And that's before you get old enough to learn how to chisel, before you pass puberty and get proven trustworthy enough to handle, you know, sharp tools. But it was that age around, I want to say about 13 years old, judging by how tall and fucking lanky I was. That both I started giving him a hard time, and legally I could be sold to whoever the fuck he wanted to sell me to, according to their laws, which were actually a little more strict than international laws had become. So there was a trader, a people trader, that was kind of like a pirate-ish looking guy, like a dark rounded face, big fucking mole, beard. He wore an orangish red bandana, kind of like rag, like very pirate looking, but had frizzy black hair hanging out of it. But apparently Caiaphas had owed him some money, which further verified my suspicions about him working with fucking mercenaries to try to coerce people. And I was given to this fucking mercenary. Not at all like Barbarossa. More like the lawyer from Fear and Loathing. The big fucking Samoan guy. Yeah. But like dressed like fucking a pirate. Kinda. They certainly, like silk was a big fucking thing among these people. The mercenary traders. And, that'll come clear later in the story, why that might be, come to think of it. So anyways, I was basically waiting in like another type of auction outdoors on the piers, and I'd made eye contact with this very strong looking black man. Nubian is what we called them back then. And just like fucking 10 years ago when I met him again, I just kind of knew. And I didn't even have much social experience at that point in that lifetime. But I knew me and this kid were going to be friends. And what they were doing was they were basically selling off the ones who would be good for anything but war. Okay? And then the ones who were left all got put in the boat. And other than the fucking cracks in the wood, there was no light where we were. And where we were taken was, as I understand it today, Crimea. And they called the place, it was a mercenary port, basically, and nothing more. And it was called Otasa. Not Odessa, Otasa. I don't know if it's the same place, but I don't remember it being in the same place. Like, I don't know if that became Odessa later or something, like, I don't know. Or maybe Odessa was named for this place. I don't know. Otasa, if you spell it in English. Otasa. And this was in Crimea. And there was a hot spring there. And there were rumors of like an open volcano where they would make weapons. But I never saw that. You could see the hot spring though. But this was like, I don't know how to describe it. It was like baby boot camp. But like, how do you say, like a Robinson Crusoe type thing, but like the Lost Boys mixed together. And basically there was just generational areas where, like, you know, you grew up here for a little while, then you go to this other place and you grew up there for a little while, and you'd fucking be training and learning and fucking building things and making weapons and learning how to use weapons and learning how to build fucking forts and cities and all kinds of shit. And it was much further to the northeast, where we were told, like, nobody had a clue we were about to go to war, okay? We were just thinking it was the next phase of whatever the hell we were. It was probably all 16, 17, 18-year-old boys. And we were just told to march, and we just started marching. And it looked a lot like South Dakota. It was kind of like a rolling plains, but a lot of brown grass. And we wound up passing through some very high mountains. They just seemed to go on forever. Like we made jokes about, by the time we finish climbing, we'll be past heaven, you know, like we'll be looking down on Mount Olympus, you know, that fucking. And we went to war with the Mongolians. They had just annexed Tarugataria. I think that's where you get the name for the guitar, actually. But it's now called Tarataria, or the Tatars. Huh. Anyways, staring at. Oh. Hello. Which way does this go? Staring at my fish tanks while that's paused. Yeah, just in case you're wondering if I'm reading, no, I don't read things. I stare at fish tanks because they're pretty. Anyways, so I'm trying to remember more details about the fucking battle itself. I would have far too easy of a time imagining things to fill in the blank, so I'm trying to keep a very quiet mind in doing so. But I clearly remember what happened after, because those were good times. Salavolo, Salvulo. Salvulo Keflan? Fire cannons. Huh. Fire cannons. We would simply bombard and then charge before anybody could fucking organize. It was very blitzkriegish, but I don't remember anything having wheels. It was all sleds. It was just fucking dragged into place. What the fuck were we doing there? It seemed like we were picking a fight. We were just bombarding every village we came across. And then going in and erasing. But I don't remember ever actually facing the Mongolian army head on. But that could be explained with the alliance with Kush, with Kashmir. Nepal. Excuse me, Nepal. It was called Nepal at the time. It was bigger than modern Nepal. Alexander had appointed the royal family that was still in charge there, and they were very, very rich. It was the best place to find opium at the time. The only place, really, to find opium at the time. That's where I found opium at the time. You know what we need? We need some opium. Speaking of the fucking Hunter S. Thompson's lawyer. So, like, when it comes to really bloody shit, I do tend to draw a blank because I don't like to remember those kind of things. But I'm not saying for sure whether or not we ever actually fought a big army or whether we just went fucking city by city through northeast China. Yeah, it's like I only remember feeling slightly bad for the people. But we were going, you know, we would basically have mules dragging these long tubes, okay, and they would be assembled at the top of a mountain or hill overside, you know, on the high ground. And a lot like Katushkas, but a smaller number of them. And it wasn't a solid projectile. I don't think it was sulfur, but it wasn't a solid projectile. And it spread fire. It was incendiary. It's kind of like hot glass, like hot shards of glass, almost. Huh. But it wasn't like broken glass. It was some sort of natural harvested element, maybe like obsidian. Anyways. But I remember, you know, like we'd move in on foot because there was no good path to ride horses in, and we'd basically be like climbing down to conquer these individual little fucking towns, and we just fucking annihilated them and moved on. And huh. Now that does make sense. I don't think we ever actually faced off with the Mongolian horde itself. It's like that was the bullshit story. We were being used by the King of Kashmir, and the King of Kashmir had like who gave the officers, the people he had heard about, a respite. He wanted to meet them. He wanted to party with them. He was probably 27. He was a younger guy, older than me at the time, but a moron. And he had basically told me about the Tartarians, and the Mongolians, and how the Mongolians were a menace. they were taking over the northern plain, which is northeast China now. So we were being told we were there as liberators, but that's not what it seemed like. We were told that those towns we were destroying had been conquered and were being like used or whatever, supplying the enemy. Yeah. Where the fuck were they? What were we doing there? That I didn't remember this earlier. This is just bugging me, but it's kind of typical, isn't it? So anyways, there was sort of a small grouping of different regiments, I suppose. Like 12 to 18 men, really, is all you'd be grouped together with. And see, there was one defeat. Okay, to lose a battle, to be chased back, you'd be put to death for it. To not show up for work, if you were a mercenary, if you thought you could just go escape or whatever, you'd be put to death. They would come and they would just put, you were trying to escape an army of mercenaries. Think about what would happen. But there was one, I guess, platoon, let's call them platoons. There was one platoon that had been all but fucking taken out, except for two guys. One was half dead and the other was trying to save his life. And there was nothing anybody could do for the guy that was dying. But the guy that was trying to save his life was Simeon. Oh, good, the wife's home. He was the black guy. The same black kid from fucking 5 years earlier. Hold on a minute, please.